Hello everybody, good morning, afternoon, and welcome to the United Stand. Hope you're all doing well. Lots to talk about this morning. The Qatar bid latest and the outrage that's around it that I think is worth discussing if you're a United fan, because there's some interesting stuff going on around this Qatar bid, not just from the Premier League, but also from Manchester United fans not potentially wanting this. We'll delve into that. We'll also talk about a couple of goalkeepers that we've been linked to as well. Plus, we've got what I really want to get into, because I couldn't talk to you live last night because I was out, is I want to talk about Ten Hag and his frustration about the squad and the concern. And we heard him yesterday, and we'll talk about that, about how Anthony, McTominay, Martial, all three of those players not expected to be involved, not just for the Leeds game tomorrow, but the Barcelona game on Thursday, where you're already missing Martinez, Eriksen, Van der Beek. So look, this thing that we didn't want to be the biggest concern about this season, because I think we have confidence in Ten Hag and what he can achieve, but our biggest concern is not loss of form, it's loss of players, isn't it? That's what it's all about. But look, sorry it's a bit of a late morning show today. It's going to be a bit all over the place today, to be honest with you, because I do talk sport live on national radio. You can call in 7:30 till 9 tonight, so we'll have to fit the evening show in at about 7, 6:30, something like that. We'll see how it goes. But live on that football at 3 o'clock for the 3 o'clock games, and obviously the morning show's a little bit late because last night I was in London town. I was guesting on Ben Foster's Foscast podcast live, in front of about 200 people. If you check my Instagram out, I beat him on a Keep You Up challenge. Beat a professional footballer at Keep You Up challenge. But it was a great night, and all I'm going to say about it is it was a bit of a rehearsal for our tour that's coming out in March. So I got lots of ideas from it. Really enjoyed it. You know what? I love the community that we've built, but actually getting out there, meeting people and doing a live show, it was so great interacting with the crowd. So you can still get your tickets for that. Funnily enough, we've got still got tickets available for our London date, and also there's a few for Manchester, not that many, but March international break. It was a fantastic night last night. The United Stand one will be better, much better, interactive, lots going on. Fantastic night, and if anyone was there who's watching now, cheers everyone. But yeah, get your tickets, it will be brilliant. How are we all doing anyway? Am I actually live? Yes, I am. I didn't know whether it was live. They're live. The live chat was a little bit slow there. Okay, let's fly straight into this. I want to just talk about a few things that Erik Ten Hag said in the press conference yesterday, which I obviously couldn't really react to because I haven't spoken to you since then. But look, first things first, this is straight from Ten Hag. He says that Anthony Martial, Scott McTominay are like to miss Man United's games against Leeds and Barcelona. Obviously, massive game against Barcelona on Thursday, but a bigger game because it's the first game. Leeds tomorrow. Erik Ten Hag also spoke about the availability of Martial and for Leeds, and says we have some days obviously, but I don't expect it. I think same answer for Barcelona. I can't say 100%, but I don't expect it. And look, maybe there's a little bit of reverse psychology because Barcelona is such a big game, but you know what? I think it's really interesting to sort of grasp what situation we're in, really. I mean, Anthony Martial you cannot rely on. That is a problem, as we know. Scott McTominay, many people probably don't want to rely on. Anthony is a player that we've invested heavily in, and unfortunately he's starting to I'm not saying he's injury prone. I don't think anybody's saying that Anthony's injury prone, but he is starting to rack up quite an amount of considerable games that he's missing for one reason or another. And in your first season, it's really important that you play a lot of games, because there's always that F word in your first season, and it's called flop. And if you aren't playing enough games for people to gather what you're all about, and your first season just slips away, and it happened with Sancho, didn't it? Because Oli mismanaged him at the start. That first season can disappear, and then you're not a new signing anymore, and people are putting a bit more pressure on you. And so Anthony, whatever the issue is with Anthony this time, the fact that it's actually a little bit long term. I mean, I think when he missed the Leeds game on Wednesday, there was talk that he'd probably be available for the weekend because it's just a knock, and now Ten Hag's talking about missing another 2 games. So I think it's not unexpected, but it is a frustration, and you do sense that from Ten Hag. Connor says, I love the content. You make watching United more fun with the watch-alongs. I always have you on while watching the games. Thanks, Connor. Yeah, you do sense a frustration from Erik Ten Hag. And finally, I think, this was very interesting. He says it's a tough season with the World Cup in between and a lot of overload from the players. That's quite clear. The process is already longer term coming on, that the load on the players is too much. And he's right. I think it's important that the manager of Manchester United does come out and acknowledge what we've spoken about on this channel in depth as a community, is that there almost seems to be this FIFA mentality. And even FIFA, your players get fatigued. I won't say Football Manager because that's actually very good. That's a very good game at dealing with player fatigue. You can't just pick the same players week in, week out. And in real life, you can't just keep picking the same players in and out. And I think that Ten Hag coming out and saying it's too much is probably a little bit late. I don't think Ten Hag's somebody that wants to put excuses out there, but I actually think he's probably come out with this a little bit too late. I think it's brilliant that he's acknowledged it, but as I say, as a community, we've been speaking about this since the start of August. We've certainly been speaking about it for the last 3 or 4 months. It is ridiculous, and I don't like excuses, but we started against Forest on the 27th of December as our first Premier League game after the World Cup, and it's literally been 3.5 days every game for the last 6 weeks, and it's going to be like it for the next 6 weeks. And look at the squad. Van der Beek got a season ender. Eriksen's nearly got a season ender. Martial can't stay fit. Anthony's now getting injured. McTominay. Delo's had 2. And then on top of that, you're going to get your normal stuff like Casemiro's suspension. So it's very, very difficult. And I do worry about it because I think tomorrow against Leeds, I've already done the preview. You can check that out. I think it'll be a tough game. Barcelona is going to be a very, very tough game at the Nou Camp if we're not taking people like Anthony, Martial, McTominay, Eriksen, Van der Beek, Martinez. That's whatever you think about those 6 players. They are first-team squad players who play minutes for the first team, and it's difficult. It's difficult. And I'm not saying other people aren't in that situation because they will be, but this was always going to happen. And the thing that always frustrates me, and it must frustrate you, and it must frustrate Ten Hag, is that the people in power have got no care about fan or player welfare or club welfare. It's all about the money. It's all Jesse J. It's all about the money. That's all it is. The World Cup was always going to cause this. You cannot start at the start of August, and then go through to June the 10th when the Champions League is. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, thankfully, we're not in the Well, I would like to be in the Champions League, but if we got to the Champions League final, our season would have started on August the 1st, and then you'd be playing in the Champions League final on June the 10th. And then if you're an international, you'd still be going to go and play for England or France or whoever until about the 20th of June, and then you're going to go on tour the first weekend in July. It's ridiculous. I know they earn a lot of money, but it is ridiculous, and I'm not even that interested. I mean, player welfare is fundamentally what it's all about. But actually, my priority is fan welfare. I think Manchester United have got such a great opportunity this season to do really well. I think maybe we could have pushed onto the title race. Maybe we could have won a couple of trophies. But I think looking at what's happening, logically, I think this is just going to become more and more of a problem as people become more and more injuries and tiredness, and it could erode and crumble our season. Mark, do you know why the Qataris owning United and PSG would be an issue? Confusing when the City Football Group has 10 clubs, half of which, including City, are based in European leagues, says Joshua Bellwater. I do want to talk to you about that. So look, we'll be all over the place today because you probably realised I'm a little bit all over the place. I was out late last night, but in London. I tell you what, it was a lovely drink. I'd never tried it before. It was ginger beer and whiskey. Very nice. If you are somebody who likes a bit of whiskey, very, very nice. But no, this will be interesting for you. I read a very good piece in the Manchester Evening News by Stephen Railston. You might not agree with it, but I think it was well constructed. It was talking about sports washing, and there's a real. Look, you've got to be mature in life, and especially if you're going to support Manchester United, you've got to realise that there are many different types of supporting Manchester United. I mean, we used to have someone on the channel who, basically they had no knowledge, absolutely no knowledge of Munich and what it was all about and everything like that. And I was like, look, you as a Manchester United fan, you've got to go and find out about that, and they did. And that's what I mean. Everyone just assumes that everybody is a Manchester United fan who knows absolutely everything about the club. But the bottom line is, some people don't. Some people just don't. They might start supporting Man United because they liked David Beckham or Cristiano Ronaldo. And some people might just go, oil me up. And another fan might go, I will rip my season ticket off if we get bought by anybody from the Middle East. I do not want that type of ownership. You've got to be mature enough to realise that there are people with those differing opinions. Which leads me on to this article, which basically framed as, we don't want that type of ownership of Manchester United from that particular article point of view, and that represents a lot of United fans who don't want that. How do you feel? So they ran a poll anyway. How do you feel about the prospect of Qatari takeover of Manchester United? 30% were deeply unhappy, 22% were uneasy, 12% were neutral, 12% were happy, 24% were delighted. So it's sort of 50-50, isn't it? It is sort of 50-50. So look, I think that. I think there's a really important conversation to be had. As I understand it at the moment, and I've been a bit out of the loop for the last 12 hours, to be honest with you, somebody just said about Sir Jim Radcliffe can't afford it. Old-fashioned all the way. I would love an owner that gets the Glazers out, says Greg's Gaming Corner. Thank you very much. The way it is at the moment, and Mo says, have you seen the reports that Ten Hag has contacted Mason Greenwood? I am going to talk about that, Mo, so don't worry. We don't sweep things under the carpet. We will hit that head on. The way I understand it at the moment, and this is probably from about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, is that Qatar are favourites to buy Manchester United. There may well be silent bids going in. What will happen is by next Friday, all the bids will go in, and then the Glazers will get it down to about 2 or 3 really serious bids that they want to focus on, and then those 3 bids will get more access to the United financial data, and then final bids will go in. So we could be still 2 weeks, a month away from finding out who's got us, maybe even longer. But the process is moving along. Qatar is expected to win the bid at this moment in time if they bid. If they bid is based on this PSG thing that someone was mentioning in the chat a minute ago, whereby you can't own PSG and Manchester United with the same investment group. So basically, I can't buy Manchester United and own PSG because that would be Goldbridge Investments or whatever you want to call it. So you can't do that. What you can do is you can have, and this is what they're trying to find a way around, you can have somebody who's involved in the PSG investment group who sets up an independent investment group and has money in that as well, potentially. And that's what they're looking at the moment. Some people are saying you can't do that. But as somebody just said there about the Man City group, there are clubs. But what tends to happen is you own a club in Australia, you own a club in the MLS who will never play against each other competitively. But Salzburg, Red Bull, that has been done. I personally don't think that's going to be the biggest barrier for Qatar to buy Manchester United. I personally wouldn't. I think the PSG thing is a little bit of a red herring, if I'm honest with you. I don't think finding a way to buy. Look, there's a pot of money, and there's a pot of money in Qatar, and they want to buy Man United. They will find a way of doing that. The PSG thing, I don't think will be an issue. I think the biggest issue will be the Premier League and all this stuff from Amnesty International and the outrage and the outrage amongst some Manchester United fans as well. I think that would be the biggest barrier to cross, because although Man City is owned by Abu Dhabi and Newcastle is owned by Saudi Arabia, with all due respect to those clubs, they're not Manchester United or Liverpool, and I think the minute Manchester United is going to be owned by someone like that, that's when everyone will go, that's not acceptable. Even though the Premier League, look, what I want to say is that if you are dead against Manchester United being owned by Qatar and all this sports washing stuff and everything like that, that's absolutely fine. If you want it, that's up to you. But the Premier League and everyone who's moaning about it, I must admit, I do find a level of hypocrisy here. I respect the United fans that don't want it, because it's their football club as much as it's the people who do. But if the Premier League stick their nose in, or journalists stick their nose in, or rival fans stick their nose in, or charities stick their nose in, the door, that door's already been open for many years. Man City have been owned by Abu Dhabi for years. Newcastle have been owned by Saudi Arabia for over a year. Why is everyone suddenly taking a pop at Manchester United for it? Because it's Manchester United, isn't it? We're Manchester United. It's because it's Manchester United. It's hypocrisy at the highest level, because we're not the first club potentially to be bought by Middle East investors. That it's already happened in our league. You can't even just say, well, that was PSG. It's actually happened in our league twice. So I think there's a hypocrisy there, and I expect there will be a problem with that. But the fans of Manchester United have a problem with it. I think that's a debate to be had, because you can't just say, well, screw them. We're meant to be all a fan base, and there's got to be some sort of respect and understanding about different opinions. But I think it's going to be very interesting, and I don't think it will be plain sailing towards a Qatar bid owning Manchester United. Apostle, welcome to the Members Club. And yeah, I mean, what more can you say about that? I think you have your personal stance on it. My personal stance is I suppose I'm in a fortunate position at the moment, and it's the same with Sir Jim Radcliffe. I don't really know what's behind those bids. I don't know what their long-term plan is. As I said yesterday, if Qatar want to own Man United and take us into a Super League, I'd be ridiculously against that. But if Sir Jim Radcliffe wants to buy Manchester United and he's being propped up by banks and all this sort and that, I'm against that as well. So I think the way to look at it is, we're not going to get the dream. We're not going to get the dream scenario where you get somebody with the wealth of the Middle East who is like Sir Jim Ratcliffe. You're not going to get that balance, are you? So there's going to be, as I said yesterday, will it be better than the Glazers? Yes. Will it create its own problems? Probably. Are we all going to live in perfect harmony now, singing about our new owners in a positive way? No, that's not what competitive football's about anyway. You know, there will be things that the owners do that we don't like. So Scolbridge is spitting straight facts, says Ryan Gibney. Well, I don't know about that, but I think there's a lot to be discussed, isn't there? And it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out. But at the moment, Qatar looks like it's the favourite bid. Sir Jim Ratcliffe can't compete with that sort of wealth. And I don't think wants to. I think he's a realistic person who values Man United at around 4.5-5 billion and doesn't want to go above that, but somebody will. I'm comfortable with Sir Jim or Qatar, says Joshua Bowater. Thank you very much. Just very, very quickly, there was a story in The Sun last night that Eric Ten Hag has spoken to Mason Greenwood, and he even came out with the lines that he's happy that the case has been dropped and was just seeing how he was, and he felt it was the right thing to get in contact with him. Judge ye who not yet be judged. I've probably got that completely wrong. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the Bayern job, says James. You're pissed, James. But no, seriously, just talking about that Mason Greenwood thing, it will generate quite a lot of problems if that's true. Now, the first thing I'll say is in The Sun. It doesn't make it true. Let's see if it comes from anybody with, genuine credibility. And I'm not knocking The Sun, but you know what I mean. Has that come out from, Laurie Whitwell or James Ducker? No, it hasn't. Could Eric Ten Hag have had a chat with Mason Greenwood? Yes, he could. Doesn't mean he wants him to stay. Doesn't mean he condones anything that's been accused of him. Doesn't mean anything like that. Will it anger some people if Eric Ten Hag has spoken to Mason Greenwood? Of course it will. There was an article in The Athletic this week saying that members of the Manchester United women's team were very uncomfortable about the prospect of Mason Greenwood playing for Manchester United again. That's very serious. That's very serious because they're Manchester United players. And, people might want to go down the sexist route and start being sexist as well as, condoning bringing a player back that's been accused of serious offences. But I think that would be ridiculously immature. No player's bigger than... I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. No player's bigger than the football club. I think about all the legends of Manchester United, and if any of them had done anything serious, you kick them out. I don't care how many Premier League titles they've won. That's the moral standard that you have to have. So, look... I don't want to delve into that conversation. Do I think Mason Greenwood will play for Manchester United again? I don't think that they will. I think they, as a brand and as a football club, they have to make a stand on it, and I don't think he will. Would I be surprised if he did? No, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. And then if he does, I think every individual Manchester United fan has to make a decision for themselves. If the club make a decision to bring Mason Greenwood back, then every single one of us has to make a decision for ourselves. I pretty much know what mine will be, but it's not for me to say now, and I think every one of you needs to make your own decision. But what you cannot do is you cannot sit there pontificating saying you're wrong for having that stance. If people can sleep at night and they're happy with what they've done, that's what it's all about. But Man United will make the decision. I personally don't think it's worth getting frustrated or excited or however people react to this about Eric Ten Hag potentially speaking to Mason Greenwood. Should he have spoken to him? Again, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, personally, I think that it's, many people have different ideas. Some people think what's going to happen is they're going to leave it, hope that the sale of the club just sort of allows it to be buried and he'll go on the tour in the summer. I can't see that. I can't see him going on tour to America in the summer and just having pictures and everything like that. I can't see that, but we will see. And obviously we'll keep an eye on it. And obviously it's in the court of public opinion now. Doubtful we'll get the perfect owner, says Nick B. However, at the bare minimum, they have to clear the debt and not put us in debt while purchasing the club. Hint, Jim, says Nick B. Hi, Mark. How long will Manchester live show be? Trying to plan travel ahead. Thanks, says Charlie. So last night we did our show with Ben Foster. It was only meant to be an hour, and we did an hour and a half. The United Stand shows will be... I think we're going to do like a football match format. So we'll do 45 minutes interval / half time and then come back out for another 45 minutes. So all in all, about a couple of hours if you take into account the 10-minute half time, whatever. So yeah, we could do. I do watch-alongs for 3.5 hours. I can stand on stage and do stuff and that for ages. It'll be a good show. I'm really looking forward to it. So, if you want to get your tickets, live chat has got it and the video description as well. Manchester and London, and I was in London last night. It was fantastic. Ryan says it could just be blown up like mainstream media. He is under contract at Man United and they'll have a duty of care to him. Ten Hag, I imagine, will only be checking on his mental health, says Ryan. Welcome to Members Club Spectre. Hopefully we'll have some American shows, Avi, because hopefully we're going to be in will it go to extra time, your tour, says Ladios. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully we will have some American shows, especially if we're going to go on tour in early July. We're hoping that when we know where Man United are going on tour, on the days or nights that United aren't playing, we can do some United stand shows, which would be great. Just a quick couple of things as well. Man United have been linked to a couple of goalkeepers this morning, Jordan Pickford and David Raya at Brentford, who's got 1 year left on his contract. Look, if we were interested in either of those goalkeepers, it's like asking me, do you want a Greg's pasty or do you want the finest steak, chips and mushrooms? And I would go with the steak. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Pickford. Chelsea, Mark. I'm going to watch Chelsea now, mate. I was going to do a watch-along for it, Joshua, but I've predicted that Chelsea will do well. And... João Felix is apparently playing well. I'm on That's Football at 3 o'clock, actually. I'm doing the 3 o'clocks today. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Adil says both Pickford and Raya are better than David De Gea. Yeah, football's not for you, is it? Tell me you don't know anything about football without telling me you don't know anything about football. I think that... I think David Raya is a very interesting goalkeeper. 1 year left on his contract. With that, he's like a number 10 at goalkeeper. He's probably the best footballing goalkeeper in the league. He's brilliant, and he's a good shot stopper. I mean, Brentford are having a good season, so he will be available. There'll be a lot of competition, and he'll be reasonably priced with a year left on his contract. Jordan Pickford. I mean, the problem for me is, are these players meant to be replacing David De Gea? Because Jordan Pickford ain't replacing David De Gea, never in a million years. So I don't know, but we do keep getting linked to Jordan Pickford. It's not the first time in the last 2 years we've been linked to Jordan Pickford. So, God, no. I don't think he should even be in goal for England. For me, Ramsdale, Pope are better than him. So, I wouldn't want Jordan Pickford. I think David Raya is an interesting one. As you know, David De Gea is my keeper and I want him to stay. And I'm sure he's going to sign his new contract soon. But what we do need is, we do, even David De Gea fans like myself, what I do want a goalkeeper who can come in and work with David De Gea to take his slot over the next 2 or 3 years. And I want David to be on board with that. And I want the new player to be on board with that. We made such a mistake with Schmeichel where we didn't transition and it cost us. And I think we've got a goalkeeper who's been here for 10 years, who knows the club like the back of his hand, has all the experience in the world, knows how to be a Man United goalkeeper, and knows he's coming towards the end of his career. So... perfect 3-year transition with the right goalkeeper. I think David Raya might be a little bit too much of a first team goalkeeper to come in and do that. I do think you've got to go for if I was Man United, what I would be looking for is I'd be looking in the Bundesliga, I'd be looking in the Eredivisie, I'd be looking in the Championship, I'd be looking, around Europe. I'd be looking for the goalkeeper that's going to be the best goalkeeper in the world in about 10 years' time. So I'd be looking at goalkeepers around 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's what I'd be looking at. And, that fit in with the way that Ten Hag wants to play. And I'd be going, right, they're going to play Carabao Cup next season. They might play a few FA Cup games. They might even play Premier League games, every now and again. But their job for the next 2 years is to gradually increase that. So year 2, maybe they do start playing, some of the first team games. But under David De Gea and his guidance, with a view to you're going to be our keeper in 2 or 3 years' time. That's what I'd be looking at, yeah. Connor says Costa. A few people saying Sanchez. I don't think that works because they're going to want to be number one goalkeeper straight away, and I don't think that's what United are looking for. I think it's very logical what United are looking for, and they're looking for what I just said there. You don't renew David De Gea for 3 years on 250 grand a week or something like that to then sit him on the bench. Ronit says Sanchez from Brighton would be perfect. I don't think he is. Because I think what you're talking about, Ron, is you're talking about if we're going to sell David De Gea. If we're going to sell David De Gea, then, try Sanchez, try Raya, try that, whatever, yeah. But we're not. We're looking to transition. And you can't transition when you bring a first-choice goalkeeper in. You end up with what we had with Henderson, and it doesn't work. Mutta says, hello, Mark, just wanted to say hi. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to be on this show for too long. I've already done nearly 25 minutes because I can't stop talking, and I wasn't meant to do that. But look, I'm sure we'll bring a goalkeeper in, and I might be completely wrong. Maybe we do bring a David Raya in. Maybe we do bring a Pickford in. Maybe we do bring a Sanchez in. But I always use Lafont, and I don't mean Lafont, who's in the French league, but he's a good, exciting goalkeeper in his early 20s, who I think you could bring to Manchester United and work with under that. Joshua Bowwater says De Gea's contract extension is dragging on. It is dragging on, but it will get done. It will get done. Jazzy says, yes, it's Moanbridge. You know what, Jazzy? Call me what you like, I don't care. But the reality is, I was getting... I don't normally go on Twitter much, but I'll tell you a story. Because I was on the train to London yesterday, I was a bit bored. I was listening to my 90s playlist, and I was like, I was going to do a Twitter Q&A, and then I actually was looking at what I'd been tagged in on Twitter, and I was replying to a few people, and that somebody had obviously found some negative person having a pop at Garnacho, and then people were replying going, oh, this guy and Goldbridge are so negative, blah, blah, blah. And it was about Garnacho, and I was like, I didn't reply to it. I was just reading it, and I was just like, this is hilarious. You talk about stereotypes and injustice, although it's not really injustice. It makes me laugh how I and the United Stand still get classed as being negative for slagging off players when it's not happened for probably, or certainly a year. Since Ten Hag's come in, it's certainly not been the way. And actually, it's the other way. And actually, even Alanga, who everyone slags off, I always say I like the player, he just needs to go on loan because he's just completely flatlined. So it's hilarious how people think that we're negative when actually we're probably the most positive. Look at Wednesday night against Leeds. The chat was so toxic, and I'm there. Why are you being so toxic? Why are you being so toxic? So, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about moaning about, because you couldn't be far wrong. Anyway, we will have an evening show for you tonight. I'm probably going to try and fit it in around sort of 6:45 for half an hour before I'm on TalkSport. So if you want to get involved, you can. Chelsea are winning 1-0. João Felix has scored, apparently. Told you. I'm going to go and find one of my tweets and retweet it about him. We should have got Felix. I told you, he's a brilliant player. Absolutely love him. I'm on That's Football at 3 o'clock. So join me then, where we'll probably be talking about Arsenal and Spurs and all those games that might impact on us. And then we'll be back a little later. Don't forget, I was in London last night. I was on stage. That's why I'm a little bit, But it was a great show. You can be part of these shows. That wasn't my show last night. I was just guesting, but it was brilliant. Keep Up Challenge, live quiz. It was brilliant. We're going to do the United ones, Dan ones in March. Get your tickets while you can. We've still got them in Manchester and London. Ben Foster will be at the Manchester one as well. He's going to be on stage with me. So get those tickets while you can in the live chat or the video description. Speak to you in a bit.